This is Dr.RED Panda.
Did you know about the castrati of medieval Europe? Have you ever considered castrating your own son so that he could pursue a career in singing? And have you ever wondered why these unmanly men became the objects of countless women's obsession? Hello everyone, I'm Dr.RED Panda. Today, let's delve into the mysterious world of medieval castrati. The sacrificed boys. Between the 16th and 18th centuries in Italy, there was a rather fashionable choice. In order to turn boys into opera stars or soprano singers in churches, parents would have them undergo castration before puberty. The goal of this procedure was to prevent the voice changes brought on by puberty, thereby preserving the boy's youthful, high-pitched vocal range. Interestingly, some men who were castrated after puberty didn't experience significant voice changes either. While castration had a long history in Europe, the emergence of the castrati as a professional singer dates back to around the 16th century. At the time, the Roman Catholic Church had banned women from participating in church choirs, which led to a surge in demand for high male voices. Castrated boys quickly became the substitutes, and by 1589, even the Vatican had given tacit approval to the practice. As Italian opera gained popularity across Europe in the 17th century, the international demand for castrati soared. By the 1720s and 1730s, the phenomenon peaked. Around 4,000 Italian boys were castrated each year at the behest of their parents. In fact, Florence's Santa Maria Nuova Hospital ran a kind of assembly line, performing the procedure on 8 boys at a time. Most castrati came from impoverished families. Parents often took their sons to back-alley barbers or anonymous surgeons for the secret procedure, later claiming the boys had fallen off a horse or been attacked by a wild boar to justify the castration. Afterward, the children would be sent to specialized music schools for rigorous training. In early 18th century Rome, the daily curriculum at a vocal school included an hour of singing challenging pieces, an hour of practicing trills, an hour of working on elaborate cadenzas, an hour of singing in front of a mirror to correct facial and body movements, an hour of literature study, and that was just the morning. After lunch, their studies resumed with half an hour of music theory, an hour of counterpoint writing, an hour of music transcription by ear, another hour of literary study. In addition, they practiced the harpsichord and composed vocal pieces, both sacred and secular. This intense, daily training meant that gifted children could often take the stage as teenagers, showcasing technical brilliance and vocal power far beyond the reach of either women or typical male singers. Even as adults, castrati retained the soaring voices of youth. They had child-sized vocal cords but adult lung capacity, producing agile, ethereal voices with a strange, haunting beauty. Even in middle age, their voices remained sweet and powerful. People at the time described their singing as magical, otherworldly, unbelievable, and heartbreaking. Women fainted when they heard it. Men were moved to tears. The legendary castrati, Farinelli and Caffarelli. Among these castrati, none were more legendary than Farinelli. Born in 1705, he was hailed as the trembling voice of the goddess. Farinelli sang for the King of Spain for 10 years, and it was said that his voice could even alleviate the king's depression. He was not only a castrato but also a superstar in the history of opera. In 1733, when he performed in London, the audience erupted in cheers. A god! A Farinelli! At his peak, Farinelli earned as much as £5,000 a year, a staggering sum at a time when an ordinary worker made just 15 shillings a week. A loaf of bread cost 1 penny, and a pint of beer half a penny. To put it in perspective, Farinelli's annual income was equivalent to hundreds of years' wages for a common laborer. Even after retirement, Farinelli remained a must-see figure for visiting dignitaries in Spain. At the same time, there was another castrato superstar, Caffarelli. Like Farinelli, he possessed incredible talent and was praised in Rossini's operas as the one who sings the voice of heaven. However, unlike Farinelli, Caffarelli chose to undergo castration voluntarily. At just 10 years old, he inherited 2 vineyards and could have lived a life of wealth and comfort, but he was determined to pursue glory on the stage. His personality was highly controversial. Arrogant, hot-tempered, and provocative, he often fought duels over disagreements and once publicly insulted King Louis XV of France, resulting in his exile. Even his teacher, Porpora, was fed up with him but still admitted, "He is the greatest singer in Italian history." Time eventually softened Caffarelli. In his later years, he donated large sums to charity. British music historian Charles Burney was deeply impressed by Caffarelli's politeness. Castrati of that era were the true divas, known for their fiery tempers, unbearable vanity, obsessive passions, lavish extravagance, and coquettish teasing. They toured the European continent, from Madrid to Moscow, commanding exorbitant fees. Their hysterical female fans flooded them with love letters, fainted in the audience clutching their wax figures. Castrati were not just musical giants, they were a cultural phenomenon. The castrati who drove women crazy. Surprisingly, the legendary castrati were also known for their remarkable abilities in certain other aspects. Physiologically, sexual relations with castrati were not entirely impossible, as the effects of castration on the body's development were not always consistent. As was known to the eunuchs of the Ottoman Empire's Constantinople, much depended on the timing of the operation. Boys castrated around the age of 10 often grew up exhibiting feminine traits. Smooth, hairless bodies, budding breasts, underdeveloped genitalia, and diminished sexual desire, radiating an asexual allure. However, those castrated after age 10 could continue to develop physically through puberty and often maintain their status, since the adrenal cortex also produces a small amount of testosterone. For upper-class European women, the obvious contraceptive advantage of castrati made them ideal companions for discreet affairs. Soon, popular songs and pamphlets began to hint that castration actually enhanced a man's sexual stamina. The lack of sensation ensured greater endurance. Stories spread portraying eunuchs as attentive lovers whose full focus was entirely on the woman. When Farinelli visited London in 1734, an anonymous female admirer wrote a poem mocking local men for failing too quickly, while praising Farinelli for lasting until the very end. British women seemed particularly susceptible to the charms of Italian castrati. Another castrato, Consolino, cleverly exploited his delicate feminine features in London's high society. He would dress as a girl to arrive at trysts, then conduct passionate affairs right under the noses of his lovers' husbands. In 1766, the beautiful 15-year-old Irish heiress Dorothy Monsell eloped with the castrato Giusto Tenducci, shocking society. Tenducci was pursued by her furious father and imprisoned. But betting others was risky for anyone. One early castrato was even assassinated by a jealous lover's family. One castrato once wrote to the Pope, pleading to marry because the castration had been ineffective, only to receive a harsh reply, "Let him be castrated better." The church typically forbade eunuch marriages, though in Germany 2 castrati were granted special legal exemptions allowing them to wed. Male opera enthusiasts also admired the androgynous qualities of castrati. Travelers reported that in Rome, coquettish young eunuchs would bind their full breasts in enticing bras, offering services as good as women or men, showcasing their unique allure. The allure and controversy of the castrati. The fame of the castrati once shone brilliantly, yet it also invited growing hostility. They were often labeled as evil beings, accused of luring men into homosexuality. Casanova mentioned in his memoirs that some castrati indeed preferred men. He once mistakenly took a priest for a disguised woman, only to later discover the man was a famous castrato performer. In 1762, Casanova attended a performance in Rome where the lead soprano was played by a castrato. He observed that this castrato's stage mannerisms were clearly intended to provoke same-sex desire. Casanova even lamented that the policies of the Roman Curia forced everyone to become homosexual, reflecting the complex social role of castrati at the time. Despite their dazzling aura, many castrati suffered hardship due to poverty and obscurity. The castration surgery not only gave them unique voices but also lifelong health problems. Between the 16th and 18th centuries, only about 1% of castrated boys became successful castrati. Most were rejected due to inadequate vocal quality for professional performance. Physically, castrati developed abnormally due to the lack of testicular hormones. Their growth plates did not close properly, resulting in excessive height and unusually long limbs and ribs. This gave them powerful lung capacity, beneficial for singing, but also put extra strain on their organs. In old age, castrati commonly suffered from osteoporosis, skeletal deformities, and depression. Their jaws, noses, and other facial features could also enlarge abnormally. One observer described them as big and plump like capons, with round hips, arms, and throats. In 2006, the remains of Farinelli were exhumed, revealing slender bones and an osteophyte, bone spur, on the inner forehead, a condition more common in women that can cause headaches and mental health issues. The end of the castrati era. By the late 18th century, with changing operatic tastes and evolving social attitudes, the golden age of the castrati gradually faded. Women returned to the stage, and the public began to recoil in shock and disgust at the practice of castration. In 1779, French Enlightenment thinker Rousseau denounced the act, calling parents who sent their children to be castrated inhuman. In the 19th century, heroic tenors rose to replace castrati on opera stages. In 1878, Pope Leo XIII banned the church from hiring new castrati, and finally, in 1903, Pope Pius X officially ended the tradition. The voices that once supported the dreams of a generation fell silent forever. But what do you think? Was such an extreme sacrifice truly worth it? From today's perspective, was it a sacrifice for glory or a distortion of humanity? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about this forgotten corner of history together. And that's a wrap for this episode of the video. I'm DR.RED Panda. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe and give it a thumbs up. Until next time, take care.